Howdy, it's Jim Morado, and we are still in early September 2020. We're in the Dakotas. In fact, at the moment, I think we're still in South Dakota, but we are heading towards North Dakota. And this might be one of the most interesting trips we've ever done to date. We've done quite a few, and I remember the first time we ever went to, say, Sedona, Arizona, and the first time we went to the Badlands back in 2012. I remember being just so blown away by the scenery and how perfect and otherworldly things are in some of those spots. But this was something different altogether, and I'm not even sure if you can really pick it up by this video here. But what we did is we realized we could take one day out of our South Dakota trip, kind of based in Rapid City, and we could head up north and we could visit the Theodore Roosevelt National Park in North Dakota, making that our very first trip into North Dakota, which was just a crazy nice treat. So this is video of us. We actually got up and left around 5 in the morning because it was going to be 4 to 5 hours travel time each way, there and back. So we had to be as conservative and careful with our time as possible. So we were driving when it was pitch black, and we actually drove from Rapid City, South Dakota. And I probably should get out a map book and try to explain to you everywhere we were. But we drove towards the Enchanted Highway, which is a pretty cool tourist attraction in North Dakota. It's over a 30-mile stretch of a road with several giant sculptures along the way that I believe pretty much one man created. I took video of that, and I'll post that later. But on this particular morning, like I said, we got up in Rapid City. It had snowed there that morning, so there was a light dust of snow on our car. And check out this great scenery, by the way. Again, I'm not sure if we're in South Dakota or North Dakota yet. I think we're still in South Dakota. But yeah, so we drove, kind of a crooked route going from Rapid City, South Dakota up to Theodore Roosevelt National Park. And I will say, from about 5 a.m. for the first few hours of that trip, yeah, look at that. I believe we're in North Dakota at this point, but for the first few hours of that trip, we, after we got past, a good ways past Rapid City, we just did not see other cars on the road. Literally, I'm sure we drove 30, 45 minutes at times and just did not see another car. It was very isolated. It was dark. It was pitch black dark as we left, and for the first, at least first couple of hours of that trip, we drove by Bear Butte. Again, just check out that scenery. But I remember we drove by Bear Butte and some other, just ranges rising up, kind of near us, but off the road, and they were just black. It's dark, and you see this haunting black mountain beside you. You're driving, and the speed limits are pretty high in this area, as I've mentioned before. But you're driving. It's dark. And there are deer everywhere. I didn't really get any on the camera as we were going up, but especially, 6, 7 a.m. Again, those haunting buttes rising up from the ground. And then you have these deer that, they seem to know not to go into the road, but man, do they get close to it. And that's kind of a scary sight in a way as you're driving. The sky, the road, the scenery. It's, yeah. But you're driving and you see those deer on the road. And they're kind of gray. I don't know. I think they're different from deer in my neck of the woods, because even when it's dark, you can see them and you can tell they're brown. But these deer were they were a little spooky. It was really interesting. Sorry about that camera work. There we go. Again, it was just something special. I read somewhere, I think at Theodore Roosevelt National Park, that Teddy, that must be the sun coming up that morning. Teddy described the area as like something out of an Edgar Allan Poe story. And it definitely was. There's something beautiful about it and spooky. And I mean that in just an, I'm amazed kind of way. Oh, yeah, and I forgot. We are driving through the Little Missouri National Grassland. I saw that sign, and this is a pretty area worth exploring more of at some point. And this was, again, on our way to Theodore Roosevelt National Park. Our GPS device kind of led us from, again, Rapid City up to the start of the Enchanted Highway. Then we did that, and then we started driving on over to the Theodore Roosevelt National Park. But this drive, probably 5 hours on this particular morning, and we dragged our feet a bit. But it was just so different, so isolated. I'm sure we were having, I didn't look, but I doubt we were getting cell phone service all the time. There's a rare car in front of us. Especially the first part of that, it was just spooky and exciting. And I would really like to do that particular drive again. It was really, really a lot of fun. Anyway, yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about how fun the drive was as we got up to Theodore Roosevelt National Park. And again, I don't want to waste a lot of time talking about the trip to the national park before we even get there. But I was just so blown away by everything we saw. This was just so pretty and so scenic, and it made me just think, man, I can't wait to get back to the Dakotas, especially North Dakota, since this was new to us, to explore a little more. And I wanted to say, too, that, again, on our way to Theodore Roosevelt National Park, we stopped in the town of Dickinson, and that was a cute little town. They had a Dunn Brothers coffee, and that's probably my second favorite chain coffee place, national coffee chain place after Caribou. Just a nice little stop off. But that's not where we are at this moment. We are pretty much, in the area you would consider to be the Theodore Roosevelt National Park. And we are actually in Medora, North Dakota. And this is such a great little town. I'm not even sure how to describe it exactly, but it's kind of the town that you come to hang out in before you go into the national park. It's the town associated with the national park. I believe the park's headquarters are even in this town. But this is such a cute little town. And we roamed around here for a couple of hours. Again, I only planned on being here a couple of hours because there was just so much to do in this area, and I shortchanged us. Giving us just a couple of hours here was not fair. We really needed more time. But we stopped by here, and this is where we had lunch. We were going to go by, there was a restaurant that had really good ratings called the Cowboy Cafe, and it looked cute. But just to be honest, we went in there, it was a bit crowded, and with things going on right now, we weren't real comfortable with things. But we were told to have a seat, and they would be right with us. And we could hear people at the table next to us talking about how their waitress or waiter hadn't been around in some time, and they were waiting for their bill. I'm sure it gets busy here, and I'm sure, I know there's a staffing issue in North Dakota, but we just got up and left because it was obvious we weren't going to be able to have a nice quick lunch there. And we ended up going to a place called Boots, which is across town. And by across town, I mean a pleasant 5-10 minute walk. And yeah, we went to a place called Boots, and we had a great meal. We went to some little shops here. Lots of neat little shops. This is nowhere near a Gatlinburg or a Wisconsin Dells, or even Niagara Falls. It's not quite as crazy as some of those places. It's not near as crazy as those places, but it's very pleasant. and it's obvious that they're cashing in on the national park connection, the Theodore Roosevelt, the Rough Riders connection, but they haven't gone totally nuts. There's no Ferris wheels, there's no ski lifts, anything like that. And this is just really pleasant. This is the kind of place a more mature crowd might go. It's very walkable, it's very calm, and we liked it a lot. And again, there's a museum, there's a ton of stuff to do here. This is a town that I think, if you like to take your time, I think we could have spent several, probably a couple, 2-3 days here and enjoyed it. Oh, this is the inside of Boots. And we just had a really nice meal. Oh, there was our waitress. She was very good. Really sweet, too. Just a nice young lady. And they've had nice t-shirts. I bought a couple stickers. Just a cute little kind of bar-ish place. Just, yeah, we were really happy with going there for lunch. We also stopped by the Rough Rider Inn, named after Teddy's boys. And it was really, really nice. There was a sweet lady at the front who made some suggestions. Oh, and this was a little coffee shop. And we went there and got a couple of drinks, and the lady running that place was great. Their inside was not open because of the current situation in the world, but she was doing orders through a window, and she was just really, really pleasant, and we had good beverages there. I can't remember the name of the place, but we were really happy with that. And look at the scenery. Check that out. You've got some pretty buildings, some pretty old buildings, and then you've got those kind of mountains rising in the background. Can you imagine living in a place like that and getting that view every day? Oh, I also wanted to mention that I stopped by the post office there because I collect postmarks. One of the things when I travel, especially to a new state, I try to get at least one postmark. And I went here to their post office and got a great postmark. Really sweet little people working there. Nice lady. Talked to her for quite a while just about the locals and all that sort of thing and things to do. We're here we are driving to the entrance of Theodore Roosevelt National Park.
That was $30. I guess our
Maybe we should have bought an annual pass.
Oh, yeah.
Hey. Card strongly preferred. Should I use my card?
That's fine.
Hello.
Howdy, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Do you have a park pass yet?
We don't. I got a Custer State one of Badlands, all that, but that doesn't count, does
Oh, Badlands National Park pass?
it? Yeah. Well, we bought it a couple days ago while we were at the Badlands.
Entrance
$30.
ticket.
Okay, are you going to any other national park?
Probably not.
Okay. So you want a $30 vehicle pass?
Yeah.
And you
How
have a
much
credit
is the
card?
annual
Yeah.
pass, Jim?
How much is the annual pass?
It's $80.
Okay.
And we are actually, well, let me tell you about this in a second here.
Sure.
I'll have you swipe the credit card on the right.
Let's see.
So if you hang on to that Badlands vehicle pass and hang on to this one, and before that Badlands one expires, which it should be good for a full 7 days,
Okay.
you can upgrade to the American the Beautiful annual pass.
And that's good for a year?
The American
Okay.
Beautiful pass.
Okay.
These are not.
I gotcha.
Yeah, these are only good for 7 days.
Sure.
So there's some park pass.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I have really short arms. Thank you.
And
Appreciate that.
Put that receipt someplace else. Safe, like in your pocket.
Okay.
Or in your glove box where it won't blow up.
Okay. Hey, thank you.
Have a good time.
You too.
Visitor center's open if you want to stop.
Oh, sure. Thank you. And again, there we were. We were talking. There was a really nice lady that sold us our ticket there at the entrance. Another nice person in North Dakota, and another nice person in the national parks. I apologize for the camera work there. I wasn't paying attention, but I always think it's interesting when we come to a park for the first time and chat with people. Just so you know, we would go to Devil's Tower on this trip, and if you watch that video, I'm sure I'll mention it. But we would end up buying the America the Beautiful National Park Pass. It ended up saving us about $5 just on the national parks we visited on this trip. If you live in Kentucky, Indiana, Tennessee, there's really not a significant charge or any charge to get into the main national parks in these areas. That pass really only benefits you if you live in one of these areas. If you live a little further out west. Hey, and here's some prairie dogs. We'll check them out for a little while. I'll shut up and let you listen to them. You see the three of them kind of cuddled together? Did you get good pictures?
Yeah. There's a little hole.
Yeah. Yeah, and watching prairie dogs is that's one thing we really look forward to on our South Dakota, North Dakota trips. They're just great, and I really enjoy watching them. And we're driving around the Theodore Roosevelt National Park some now. Well, yeah, so we stopped there by the where we bought our tickets. There's a nice little gift shop visitor center that's sort of edited down at the moment with everything going on. A couple of very nice ladies were running the place, and we ended up talking to them for quite a while just about the park and parks in general. And that was a lot of fun. I got my passport, my national parks passport book, canceled.
I wonder why they have that section.
And that's something, if you're not familiar with it, the parks, all of the national parks and national park units, there might be a couple of exceptions, have a little passport cancel. And if you go there with the book, they will put their cancel in it. And that's something we've been doing since, oh geez, for a couple of decades now. I've got a pretty impressive book. In fact, I've got a couple of books that I like to get the passport cancel in. But that's something fun. We've gotten our other friends, especially our younger friends, into it. We started when we were young, and we've still continued to do it to this day. And again, we're driving through Theodore Roosevelt National Park, just checking things out. And this is the very beginning of our trip through this park. We're just kind of driving around. Hello, they're kissing.
I hope it doesn't scare me.
Oh, it's a little baby with them. Do you want to head on? I hate to leave it, but oh my gosh. I can just keep going. Oh, look at that little guy. I'm getting some good video. And that red truck that we passed is now behind us. Should we head on? There's more up, like, behind him. Do you want to head on?
There's a bunch over here to my left.
I'm good if you are. Look at his coloring. There's one on each side.
That's a baby.
Yeah. Yeah, so we're actually still fairly early on into our drive here at Theodore Roosevelt National Park, and we saw all of those kind of a nice, diverse assortment of creatures there. It was wonderful, and they were fairly close too. And we saw a lot of the buffalo too. and we had just been to Custer and saw them everywhere. So I don't want to say Custer spoiled us. We enjoyed watching them here too, but Custer was just mind-blowing with all of them that were around there. And I'll be quiet and let you listen in case they make any fun noises or anything. Oh, yeah. Huh?
It's not working.
This whole batch of them's about to cross the road in front of us. Anybody behind us?
No.
There's a car coming towards us. Did you get a good few good ones?
Mm-hmm.
Should we start working our way out? Do you want to get over on the right side and watch out for the guy? Do we want to start slowly edging up? Okay. It's being held hostage by a little one. I've been there. There's a big one right over here. Huh. That guy looks like your dad a little bit. Did you see it?
Mm-hmm.
And just so you know, if you look at my YouTube channel, one of the earliest videos I posted is from Land Between the Lakes in western Kentucky, 2017. And you actually can see a buffalo rest their head on my car at the at Land Between the Lakes. And here we are again, Theodore Roosevelt National Park. A lady at this kind of pullover area pointed out that there were some wild horses out there. And you could see them pretty good with binoculars, but my zoom wasn't doing the trick here, but I still thought that was pretty interesting. And we're traveling along again, just more incredible scenery. There was something kind of dusty looking about the place, kind of yellowish. And the colors just changed in different areas. This is definitely a park I'd love to come back to again in different seasons. And by the way, we are on the South Unit, which is the more visited of the units, or I guess the most visited because there's three. There's the North Unit, and then there's the South Unit, and the South Unit is the one most people visit, I think, because it's closer to everything else. You know, you can kind of drive up to North Dakota, hit the South Unit, say you've been here. The North Unit does not get as many visitors. And then there's a unit where Teddy Roosevelt actually had, you know, his setup going, and where Teddy Roosevelt lived for a while. And here on the South Unit, they actually have his cabin, and we'll see that a little bit later in the video. It's by the visitor center we came through earlier and saw. Wanted to mention too, if you go to Theodore Roosevelt National Park, they have a partial closure of their loop, and on their little newspaper they gave us when we came into the park, they mention that the Badlands were formed through deposition and erosion. As mountains lifted to the west, large volumes of sediments were being deposited into the plains. These sediments, including sandstone, siltstone, mudstone, and clay seen today, are brittle and crumble in your hands. Erosion continues to shape the Badlands through wind and water. Occasionally, these processes will undercut the road, leading to collapse. So they've actually cut off a big part of the loop. Instead of making a loop through here, there's about 4 miles cut off, so you kind of have to drive in and then go back out. My buddy Mark actually was here some time ago, and they still had the same part cut off. So you're not driving a loop, like you do at most parks. You're driving in for quite a ways and then driving right back out. I forget. I was looking to see if they had how much closure there is. There's a part, again, on the newspaper, the little hiking guide they give you when you go into the park and pay your fee, where it talks about how it's okay to walk through that area. Though it's closed off for vehicles, you can walk it. But they've X'd it out. Obviously, they're not letting people even walk in that area at this point. Yeah, okay, and I found what I was looking for here. To access the open section of road, take the first left, blah, 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 blah. Basically, to go in and out of Theodore Roosevelt National Park at this time, making no stops, is 48 miles and should take 2 hours, again, if you make no stops. So we went in and out. We went to the farthest part you could go, and we came out. Again, I allowed just a couple of hours for this park, and we ended up spending a whole lot more time here than we anticipated. Because look at it, even without all those great animals that I showed earlier, this is just unreal. And the video doesn't do it justice, but this was just great. It was just something really special. From the little free newspaper that they give you when you come into the park, there's a brief article about horses in the park. I do get a little bit of video of one later, but I wanted to read this because I think it's fascinating. Theodore Roosevelt National Park is one of the few national parks where visitors can observe free-roaming horses. Their presence represents Theodore Roosevelt's experiences here during the open-range ranching era. By the late 1800s, European settlement of the plains had reached the Dakotas. Ranchers turned horses out on the open range to live and breed. When needed, they would round up horses and their offspring for use as ranch horses. For generations, ranchers used land that would later become the park for open-range grazing. After the park was fenced, a horse roundup held in 1954 removed 200 branded animals. A few small bands of horses eluded capture and went unclaimed. These horses continue to live free range in the park. The National Park Service now manages these animals as a demonstration herd to create a historic scene for visitors' enjoyment. Horses can be viewed throughout the park in stallion-led bands ranging in size from a few to a couple dozen. Of note, the horses do not fall under the protection of the Wild and Free-Roaming Horses and Burros Act, which only applies to animals on U.S. Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management lands. The park once conducted roundups every 3 to 4 years using helicopters to herd horses to a handling facility and then sold them at public auction. More recently, the park has evaluated new methods of herd management, including contraceptives, low-stress capture techniques, genetics research, and partnerships with nonprofit horse advocacy groups. Currently, park horses are captured using tranquilizer darts and sold in online auctions held by the General Services Administration. So I think that's great. I know we went to, was it Virginia, Maryland? There's the Chincoteague, the wild ponies there, and that was a lot of fun. And I'm sure if we would have made another pass or two through here, I'm sure we would have seen more horses. But on this particular trip, not counting the ones we saw in the very, very far distant a moment ago, we did get one good look one kind of good look at one, and again, I've filmed him, and we'll see him a little bit later. But yeah, it's yeah, horses. Again, here we are in Lexington in horse country. My family had a pony growing up for a few years, and they're something special. Wanted to mention too, again, in the free literature they gave me when we entered the park. And by the way, when you go to a national park, they always have free brochures, and they usually give you a free little newspaper telling about the park. Those are worth reading. It's just interesting information that you should look through while you're there and on your way back. But they talk a little bit about researching the genetic makeup of the bison and how they've evolved over time, and how they pull a tooth and can tell quite a bit about them. And then there's also another brief article. Oh, there we go. There's the horse. And we saw him as we were driving. We noticed another car brake for a little bit, and then they kept going.
Huh?
And then we looked over and we realized that they had noticed this horse.
It's a horse.
It's always interesting to keep an eye on what other people are doing when you're in a park.
And he does have that kind of bloated stomach look like they do in Assateague.
Mm-hmm.
But they had that from salt water.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can go on.
Yeah, so how about that guy? That was a lot of fun. Yeah, again, he was a bit in the distance, but at least we got to see one of the wild horses here. So that was something. I actually had some Gino Vanelli on my iPod that I listened to after we saw him. Good song. I like the Rolling Stones one too, but I like that one better when the Sundays sing it. And just a tad bit more information on horses, again, through the great free literature given to me at the park. Horses through time. The first species in the equine family originated in North America about 55 million years ago, and was a small three-toed forest dwellers. From them, many different species evolved and spread throughout Eurasia, South America, and African continents. Between 11,000 and 13,000 years ago, horses and many other large mammals became extinct in North America. Horses wouldn't set hoof on the continent again until they were introduced by Spanish explorers in the early 1500s. North American tribes adopted the use of the horse, which helped the species spread across the Great Plains.
Look at this one right here.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was looking at.
Besides the bear.
Roll my window up on that one.
Do you want to cross, buddy? I'll let you go.
I think we need to get on out of here is what I think.
Oh, well, I can't. Because so-and-so up there wants to go.
I thought he was about to attack.
He's making grunting sounds.
Yeah, and just so you know, I kind of picked my camera up as that was about to happen. We were looking at some more bison. That one particular guy right there was kind of grunting and sort of making a little bit of an aggressive gesture at a guy a couple of cars ahead of us. I don't know what that guy did, but he kind of lingered there for a little bit. I think he might have been taunting, and that was a little disturbing. Felt bad for him. That's a huge. And if I would have had his license plate, I probably would have said something. Would have liked to have seen a little more of what he was doing. I'm speculating he might have done nothing, but I got the impression that again, a couple cars ahead of us, the little buffalo guy was being harassed. And we're back at the visitor center. We stopped back by here again, and again, man, I love national park visitor centers. But we stopped there briefly, and here's Teddy Roosevelt's cabin that he lived in at one point. They actually moved this about 7 miles away. It was a little bit further down into the park from where we were, but they've relocated it here, and it's just so exciting thinking that Teddy actually lived here, and you can walk through it yourself and check it out. I love this kind of stuff. It really gives me goosebumps just thinking about Teddy being there. So I wanted to read from one of the signs about the trunk that you see there in the cabin. And again, this was a national park posted sign actually inside the cabin. The traveling trunk, authentic, in the corner of Theodore Roosevelt's bedroom accompanied him as he set off to mend a broken heart and grieving heart. On February 14th, 1884, at the age of 25, Roosevelt witnessed the deaths of the two most important women in his life, his wife Alice and his mother Mittie. The following spring, leaving his infant daughter in the care of his sister, Roosevelt left New York with all of its memories and familiarities. He traveled west to his recently built cabin at the Maltese Cross Ranch, 7 miles south of Medora. The cabin, authentic, was moved here in 1959. If you're not up on your Teddy Roosevelt, you need to read a book on Teddy Roosevelt. Really fascinating guy. I would imagine if you're watching this video, you're familiar with Teddy, but he is just kind of a little bit of a pre-Chuck Norris before Chuck Norris. You know how people talk about Chuck Norris doing all sorts of crazy stuff that no human could do. Teddy Roosevelt is kind of a Chuck Norris, Paul Bunyan type. He's tough. And just a lot of fun to read about. I've personally been to his inauguration site in Buffalo, and also his childhood home, which is a reconstruction kind of thing in New York City. But I love the fact that there are so many kind of scattered Teddy Roosevelt sites. You know, I love Abraham Lincoln, and it's easy to check out a ton of Abraham Lincoln stuff if you live in Kentucky. And southern Indiana is not too far away, and you've got Springfield, Illinois, which is all fairly close. But with Teddy, it seems like, and of course he had more access to travel at that point in time, but it's exciting seeing Teddy Roosevelt's sites kind of spread out all over the place. And I just wanted to take one big, quick look around the cabin from the outside. Just thought that was really exciting. And I believe the Rangers actually do a more formal tour there at different times. This particular visitor center was doing a great job of trying to social distance and keep people spread out and stuff. It's a small enough visitor center, though, that they didn't have to worry too much about that sort of thing. And we're driving out of the national park, once again driving out of the way through the Medora area, which we were at earlier. Oh, I wanted to mention, too, that there is a statue of Teddy Roosevelt, in his Rough Rider kind of uniform, that's here in town. And it's the exact same statue that is on one of the corners in Rapid City. I need to read up on that. I'm not sure how many of those statues have been copied and placed in other spots. I doubt many, if any of them, besides the Teddy Roosevelt. They're very nice statues there in Rapid City. But I have a picture of me beside the Teddy Roosevelt statue in Rapid City and beside the one here in North Dakota. And we're driving back again, and this otherworldly scenery is just blowing my mind. and it's so exciting. Here in a little bit, we'll pass by Bear Butte, which my wife and I passed by a couple of times on this trip, and it's something. We've got to spend some time there on the next trip out. I've actually made a list of things I want to do next time we're in the area. Oh yeah, and let me say just a little bit about this spot in Crow Buttes, South Dakota. It's called M&R Travelers Rest, and it's a very small little visitor center, kind of gift shop kind of place. It's independently owned. They had some knickknacks. I bought some postcards. They had some cool shirts. Nice place to stop and take a restroom break. Cute gifts. I talked to a very nice lady there who had some ties to Indiana and some of my neck of the woods in western Kentucky. She was very sweet. Her and her husband basically found out that this spot was for sale, and they kind of dropped everything to go out there and buy that little shop and sort of start a life out here in South Dakota. And I was so impressed with that story. I love that kind of spirit. And I know we're driving away from it, but I want to talk a little bit more about it. I bought a really cool postcard that says, "I survived Highway 85." I've got to look up Highway 85 more. This was a neat area, kind of spooky, kind of haunting. I believe I did get some footage of some deer on the road coming up at some point, but that was a neat little rest area, or I call it a rest area. It was a little shop, and they have food. They serve meals. They had a sign up that they have the best chocolate milkshakes. I got one, and yes, it was really, really nice drinking that on the way home, or on the way back to South Dakota. And that was just a great little stop to catch a break before we got back to Rapid City. And right beside the little restaurant gift shop place. And again, stop there. If you're in that area, hunt this place down. It was pretty cool, and the drive alone was haunting enough that it was worth the trip. Yeah, I think they get a lot of bikers out there, but man, even if you're not, a biker and you just drive around in a car like me, go hunt that place down. It was something. And there's a kind of a self-made historic marker out beside that store about Crow Buttes. And I'm going to try to read it to you because it's fascinating. The sign is a little weathered and the photo I took isn't the best, so bear with me. But there is a marker by those buttes, by that restaurant gift shop, M&R Travelers Rest. And that sign reads, "Crow Buttes, located in Harding County, was the scene of a bizarre battle between Crow and Sioux Indians in the summer of 1822. Sioux men savaged a Crow camp, destroying it and raping the Sioux-Haws. War ensued. Crow warriors left their women, children, and old folks at Sand Creek, north of the Buttes. Fleeing for a better vantage point on top of Crow Buttes with Sioux fighters chasing them, the Crows had no water with them, and being about the weather, no rain fell. The Sioux encircled Crow Buttes and waited patiently until the trapped crows died from thirst. Subsequently, the nearby canyon of Skulls to the northwest was filled with skeletons of Sioux who died like flies after contracting a fever from the crows. Signed courtesy of, I believe, Butte Co. Historical Society and Game Fish and Parks Commission." And again, I'm sorry, my picture is not very good of that sign, but I wanted to give you just a rough idea of what was going on there. Yeah, but that was just a great little stop back there, and a lot of interesting and kind of spooky, weird history associated with that area. So that's a neat place to go visit just for the heck of it, just to read that historic marker and to visit that sign. And just, 20 seconds ago or so, we passed a bar. Looked like a bar with a muffler man out front, so that was pretty cool. Just wanted to point that out real quick. And of course, now we're back at Bear Butte. And we passed that in the morning on our way out to the Theodore Roosevelt National Park. And it was so spooky. And I can't say enough about that. It was just very, very strange and haunting that morning. And we're going back by it now. So I'll just end this video with check out Bear Butte. And again, we did about a 5-hour drive up through from Rapid City up to the Enchanted Highway. Then we went over to Theodore Roosevelt National Park, hung out there for a while, and we're coming back down towards South Dakota now, or towards Rapid City.